Hey, sports fans, welcome on in. It's the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell here. So glad you could join our show today. As always, please like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Yes, we might look a little different today, and I say we because I am joined on the program with none other than the legendary, I think personally, the greatest wide receiver, should be in the Hall of Fame, Herman Moore. We're coming to you from Detroit, Michigan. Welcome to the show, Herman. Thanks for joining. So Herman's gonna guest host with me today and tomorrow. Now Herman's very popular. The people of Michigan love him. So I don't know if he'll be here for the whole show, but he certainly will be here for a good part, at least the juicy parts. So welcome, Herman. Thank you for being here on the show today.
Appreciate it.
Okay. We got some hot headlines. So this is something we do typically to start the show. Things that are moving the needle in sports. Maybe not your needle or maybe not the biggest needle, but they're certainly moving our needle. And Herman begged me, absolutely begged me to talk about the Masters because it's his favorite thing in the world to actually watch. So Herman, tell me what you thought about this year's Masters.
Hey, you know what? I saw Rory that he won. How's that? How's that make you feel? You know what? It's I used to watch it because it was before it got into the players becoming kind of divided on who was going and playing in the other leagues and doing all these other things. It started to bring it apart a little bit, but it was kind of an exclusive piece. The guys go on tour, they do their thing, and then you'd have these rivalries, you have those storylines. Everything has a storyline, and when that started to fade a little bit, it became more about who could get more where, who could then start to build a whole new thing around the rules, and they didn't like some of the governing pieces that were happening with the PGA. And so all of a sudden you start to get this, I won't say a dismantling, but you just don't get the same type of competitive, those historic and iconic names that are playing against each other. So I kind of turned away from it after that a little bit.
So it's interesting because, golf as a profession is unique among other sports. So you negotiate a contract in the NFL and you get paid every week or every other week, but you get paid. You don't show up, you're injured, your team loses, you don't make the playoffs, you still get paid. Golf is different. And when you talk about these other leagues starting up, and that was one of the rubs with a lot of the players was that, what makes golf great is you earn your way every week.
Right.
Like there's no, there's no hiding, there's no anything, which kind of brings up a question for me. What would football look like if you had to show up? Like if, I don't know how you would do it, but if your team didn't do well or statistically you didn't match up, maybe you didn't get paid or maybe you didn't get paid as much because each week, like if you win the tournament, you get more money and then it kind of goes. Now you can be the 100th ranked player on the PGA Tour and make well over $1 million a year. So it's not a bad living if you're average, but you still have to perform. What would the impact you think that you would have on football and maybe even these other sports? Because I get tired of you have Ant who's with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not eligible for postseason awards because he's only played 65 games this year. So I'm just curious. I know it's a long question. Shouldn't be.
No, but it's interesting though. I enjoy the breaking away from the traditional side of it. I think there's a place for a league like that so that it would become like when you start breaking up traditional things, there are going to be those that are going to push back against it naturally. Right. There's going to be disruption. There's going to be uncertainty. There's going to be chaos. But then I always say this: out of chaos comes creativity and opportunity. And I think if you look at it, there may be a league for that, to where it's like, here's the pot, right? There's $200 million on the line or 300 million, whatever it may be. Everyone's making the same amount of money by position.
Yeah.
And you can rotate players in and out and do whatever you want to do. But at the end, you may be sharing in a huge pot as a team because you go a certain distance or you go to a certain level, whether it's the postseason, and then how far you go in the postseason, it then starts to, you see that tier of money. I think that's just a different type of game. I think it brings a different mentality of the player in. So, anytime we look at doing stuff like that, you're going to disrupt tradition. Um, Something's going to shake out of it. And I don't think necessarily anything bad.
Right.
Like some people think bad will happen, but you know what? It is the energy of the people who are the traditionalists that are going to hold you at bay and not allow you to be able to disrupt that, because they don't want to see what happens on the other side, because it may end up being the next evolution of something. And that goes back into the business world. So if you look at the business of sports and then you look at the sport itself, there are two different things that are at play.
So competition, and that's kind of what we're, and even in competition, free market, it really drives innovation. It drives excellence. It drives a better outcome, and it is uncomfortable for people, and it's uncomfortable to go. If I don't kill, I don't eat. Right.
Right.
You got to go out and I love the idea of actually forcing people to get paid for production. I think it changes the game. I think it makes it so much more, I don't want to say barbaric, but like when there's so much more on the line. I mean, that's why we love sports, when there's just so much on the line. It's like your livelihood, your existence in this sport is going to be predicated upon you playing well. Now, a lot of leagues, and the NFL, I think, is one, relies on sucky teams, right? You have to have bad teams, because if not, you're not going to have good teams. So there's got to be someone. It's like the SEC in college football. They have to beat up on Vanderbilt. They have to beat up on Kentucky. They have to have those bad teams in order. And it doesn't mean it makes it the best product, or it makes
define
them
a bad
best
team, though. Like a bad team is you go by wins and
like
losses.
We're
right?
going to beat this team if we play them every year. We're going to beat them probably for the next decade or more. Like in a blue moon, they might beat us, but that's a bad team. And I don't think that's necessarily. I don't think the NFL wants that to happen.
Like, and at that level, is there really truly? I mean, think about this. All right, that's an interesting piece. Is there really a bad team? Think, here where I'm going with it. There's talented players.
Okay.
There's bad systems.
Okay.
Which can create a bad team.
Yes.
There's bad run organizations that can destroy good talent.
Yes.
So that's why when I asked you that question, I asked it very specifically. Define me bad team.
Okay. And well, okay.
Right. So now you got to bring all those things into play. I'm a challenge.
Man, you brought your brain to
come on, man. Nah, man.
It's like I'm just trying to skip through the headlines here.
You already smell that coffee? Well, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about
you smell that?
I do. I can hear it too.
There it is. But go ahead. But you see where I'm going with it.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Because I'll give you a great example.
All right, go ahead.
So in my career, so I was drafted by the Miami Dolphins, right? And every year I was with the Dolphins, we made the playoffs. And we were a whisker away from going to the Super Bowl. And would I say that's the most talented team I was on? The teams we had in Detroit, easily better talent. Not even, and I would say on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we got everything out of the talent we had in Detroit. I don't. Now I went to Baltimore after I left Detroit, and like scary good, like those guys, phenomenal, unbelievable, and yet they hadn't figured out how. Like a year later, so I was there 1 year. The next year, basically, the Baltimore Ravens defense wins a Super Bowl for them. The offense was just kind of in the way, and they had special teams that actually scored touchdowns. So they scored touchdowns. They didn't let you score. They scored touchdowns on special teams, and they threw in an occasional touchdown on offense and won a Super Bowl. But they weren't good offensively. And then I went to Cincinnati, and this is the part that's going to blow you away. Mm-hmm. Probably the most talented group of guys in my whole time in the NFL was when I was with the Cincinnati Bengals. They had so many first-round draft picks. Like they had some guys: Willie Anderson, Corey Dillon, Darnay Scott. They had Chad Johnson. They had Peter Warrick. They had T.J. Hushmanzada. They had Teo Spikes. They had some great Justin Smith. They had some really, really, and I'm telling you, like here this is year 11 and 12 for me, and I go, this is as good a talent as I've ever been a part of. But you talk about you talk about bad teams, yeah. So there's bad talent, but there's also there's a lot that goes into a bad team, no question.
So that's when
100%.
So that's why I was
agree
challenging you on it.
No,
and I'll let you move on, but that's when you said, you got to have those bad teams make good teams good.
Yeah.
You have that, so you have that, that differential, distance between the teams. But is it really truly talent based, or is it all these other factors? And I think it's a factor thing that happens. And I would challenge you on saying that was probably the most talented team you've ever been around or whatever. I think I would challenge you on that one.
Which one?
Cincinnati Bengals.
They were up there. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they might have been up there, but you still got to apply it. I don't care.
No.
We weren't always cooking with grease, but I'll tell you what, our talent overcame some deficiencies.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. There's another thing that goes into this as you're talking about it is it's experience too. It's like growth. It's confidence. When you talk about, and the reason I said it is I was thinking 95 we played the Jacksonville Jaguars that were an expansion team,
44-0,
and you would say bad team, right? But a few years later they're in the AFC Championship game, and all of a sudden Mark Brunell shows up and Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardle and then that defense was pretty darn good too, and so it changed, but a lot of the players were there.
Fred Taylor, yeah.
They just got better, they got more confidence, they got more experience, and so sometimes it's a factor of gaining that just time, just experience. So it's an interesting thing. In fact, I saw this it was a story, and it was talking about, and it was Kurt Warner, who of all people you talk about, he started in the NFL, free agent, and he was so afraid that he wouldn't go in a practice rep with the Green Bay Packers because it was just too much, it was so beyond him. And so he goes, I'd rather bag groceries in Iowa and play in the Arena League. But it gave him that time to be a good player. And I, like, you can tell, right? Like when you played, I know I could, and you just look at guys and you go, he'll never make it, or that guy will make it, or that guy has the talent. How do you think, at what point, what do you look for in a player to say, yeah, he's good, or he's going to be a bust?
I don't think you can really say that out the rip. And here's why. There's a mental part of development that is taking place when players come on. When you look at the mental part of it, it slows you down. It causes you to be inconsistent. It has you thinking, sometimes overthinking. And then some people can come in because they're more familiar with systems, and they come from places that doesn't allow for such a large time of development. But I think you don't get to know until you actually put them into various situations, because you don't know which situation. You think about how many different situations that define us taking that next leap and that next step. It was because we had to come from behind, or we had to understand how to lead from in front. We had to learn how to work our way out of a slump. I remember I had times where I know I have excellent hands, and I was just dropping passes, even during a mid-season where I was having one of my greatest runs, and I had to get myself back in, right? Like, if you don't know where that moment's going to take place, does it happen earlier? Does it happen when you're more seasoned? Does it happen when so I think you have to give it a period of time, or you have to create people who are really keen on being able to say, you can see it. You know what I mean? You kind of know it. And I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's
Unless you could just put more on the back of your
no,
jersey, and then all of a sudden, then you don't have to worry. You just know it's
right.
just a matter of time.
Of course, yeah. That's how I pick my teams. Just put more on the back,
Anything with an
and
M.
yeah, it's all good. Well, but it's an interesting process because the draft is coming up, and some of these players, and you have organizations, like the Detroit Lions and whatever, and they throw these players in, and they go, are they going to develop? Are they good? But there is one thing: you have to put them in. You have to let them season. You have to let them experience all the different situations that they're going to get into. And I think for me, where you start to see it is you put a guy in, and after a while you don't see the needle move, right?
Mhm.
You see kind of they're stagnant, or they get in a situation, they get in it again, and they get in it again, and you're just getting the same result. And I think there's this hope sometimes when you draft a guy or sign a guy or whatever, look, we're going to get him in here, and he's really going to be great. And then he's not. And I think it's a hard thing to know, when do I pull the plug? Because I always felt, and this was my biggest pet peeve, and just the thing that's kept me up at nights, is our time in Detroit was massively cut short.
Mhm.
Like, I wanted more time, and I felt we deserved more time, and I felt if we were given more time with the right circumstances, we'd have ultimately figured it out, because there was a lot of talent there, and there was a lot of guys that cared and wanted to do well, and it was just, and I'm sure that's part of the frustration, why Barry retired, and a lot of players have a lot of frustration. I just really wished we would have had more time, because in my whole life as an athlete, I haven't always done it great to start with, but ultimately I figured it out, right,
Mhm.
and had success, and I felt like we were doing that here, and so I felt like they really pulled the plug way too prematurely. I mean, you think about, in about a year span, you take your top passer, your top wide receiver, and your top running back, and they're not on the team anymore.
Mhm.
And how do you just go, yeah, we're going to be better off because of that? You're
You
just
can't.
not.
You can't.
There's
But
no way.
when you talk about the development, I want to say this real quick. So, when you talk about developing players, there is a process that you can't skirt. You have to go through that process. You have to let it kind of, do your research and your due diligence up front, so that at least you have an opportunity of a product that you can work with, or a player, right? And in there, you can tell if they're developing along the path that you need them to develop in your system. Just because they don't accelerate in your system, and we always see this. We see players that will get drafted by a team, they go to another team, and all of a sudden that team looked like they were a bust. Take Eric Ebron. Now, I'm not here's one thing I'm gonna say for him, or TJ Hawkinson, or some of these. We went through with the Lions. We were, it was tight end, tight end, tight end. It was tight ends and wide receivers all day,
Right.
right? And yet some of these other guys would go on, and they would become Pro Bowl. Like Eric Ebron's, they felt they didn't have the greatest hands, and he was this and yeah. He goes to Indianapolis, he gets a way that they figure out a way to use him. Granted, I don't know if he necessarily hit his stride there, but he became a Pro Bowler, right? But he couldn't do it in Detroit. And you can find players that will leave systems and then really plummet when they go other places, because they were in the right system and the fit, and those things happen. So there's all these different dynamics that are at play. And when people talk about they made the right pick, you don't know if you made the right pick
Right.
in the draft. You just don't. You just know you've gotten the best players in the best positions that fit criteria, whether it be height, weight, size, position, feel. They have the statistics. You've seen their film. You know that they have the skill set or the ability, but you do not know definitively that they're going to excel at the next level, because the next level has its own rules. Everything starts over.
Well, system is a big part of it too. And, as you're talking about this, where a guy goes from one place to another, and some guys excel and some guys don't. And I'm thinking of my own situation where, boy, we had a great system in Detroit when Tom Moore, and it really fit who we were. It fit our personnel brilliantly. And it was a system that, had we had the opportunity to continue with, we would have done very well. so I leave, I get traded to Baltimore, and I'm supposedly with this offensive genius in Brian Billick, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, this is horrible. And what was horrible about it was the system changed every week. So you would practice a play, and you'd get like maybe one day of practice with that play, and then you just moved on. So you have all this new personnel, and you have a coach that's so paranoid that if he calls a play, he can't call it again for a month because defenses are going to figure it out. So you're constantly learning a new offense, and it was just like how like everywhere I've been, we practiced the plays over and over, and the plays adjusted according to the defense. Where you went with the play was predicated on the defense. It's just it's like, and that's every system I'd ever been in that was really good. When I was in college, we had that. When I was in Miami and Detroit, and this was just different. So here I'm in this, and my point is I realized is I wasn't getting quality reps to develop in training camp. Like I wasn't getting better as a player. I was in like this was a horrible situation to be in. And then the next year I went to Cincinnati, and they had drafted Akili Smith like fifth overall, and so it was like his second year, and he was going to be the starter, and we went into training camp, and we only had like 4 or 5 plays. Now we know what you can do with 4 or 5
Mhm.
plays, right? And so, but that was it, and so you never really got to practice the full complement of your offense. And when I started playing, I think I went in about week 9
Mhm.
and played out the rest of the season. And we invented an offense on the run, and it was like I didn't get the luxury of having practice. I didn't get the luxury of having a training camp with a really good system. And so, a lot goes into going somewhere else or going somewhere and either succeeding or failing. It's so much of it is getting into the right system. So I think the bottom line with all of this is interesting conversation is there's a lot that goes into if you're a good player, a bad player, if you're going to develop into a good player or not. I don't know that people fully understand the challenge of really developing as a professional athlete. I'm sure the same happens in the NBA. I know Gordon Hayward was talking about his time with the Utah Jazz. He goes, "It sucked. I've been a player. I played all the time I get with the Utah Jazz as a rookie. They didn't even let me play." And he goes, and it was, and there was no explanation, no reason for it. So I'm sure that's, and you think about hockey, these hockey players, they're drafted, they're going to some other league to develop, and it's like, man, it's hard to be a professional athlete. That's the
Well,
bottom line.
because it's ultra. It's the apex. It's the summit of your profession, and everyone there is good. I mean, we
Yeah.
like to say players, suck, but I go, okay, if these are the players that are there, then the ones who didn't make it, if you're going to say these are really bad players, then you're saying basically the other 99% of athletes in that field weren't good enough to make it here.
So did you,
Because people like to criticize a lot,
no,
and
yeah,
yet you don't realize it's
yeah,
like, what? Well, what do you, when you're doing that at that level, you're really saying something about the people who didn't make it.
right. And I think the NFL tries to say, look, if you play, you make it in the NFL, you're good, and you're legendary. I mean, you really are. You get to that level. I'm curious. Did you ever worry about not making it? Like,
And
did you ever go, man, I'm going to get cut, or I'm on the bubble, or did you ever? Did you? Because I know guys that were like every week, freaking out. I mean, I remember Dave Craig when he came and he goes, "I'm playing so bad, I can hardly move, and if I don't pull my head out, they're going to cut me."
mm,
And I remember thinking, wow, like I never in my mind ever at one time go, yeah, I'm not going to make it here, or I'm going to get cut.
I never thought that. The only time would have been probably in college, like whether or not I would have made it to the NFL,
Yeah.
because I wasn't a starter at the time until my sophomore year, and then ultimately a full-time starter my junior year before I went to the NFL. But, you know, I didn't think I would ever get cut or released. And I always felt that if I did, I would always land somewhere.
Yeah.
If you have talent and you were part of the draft tree, I would say in those early rounds, I'd say probably the first 4 or 5 rounds. Typically, if a team releases you, someone else will typically pick you up because they know that there's a room or space in that back end of your roster for those players. Because you got to fill players. You're only putting 11 out at a time. You only have 22 actual starters, offense and defense, and then when you sprinkle in special teams, that's where a lot of your players come in that are more your backup or your second stringers. You know, I did want to say one thing because I didn't want to forget this. When you talk about development of players, I wonder why we don't. You're starting to touch on it. You stepped away from it. If you were to continue to play down your chart, so your second and your third guys, just to get them in, because your starters don't technically need to be there on every play. Yeah, it's the deception of they don't know when you're going to come to that player, but I mean realistically, down and distance, if you really understand how the game works, certain things you're going to do and not do. Yeah. So you're not fooling anyone. I don't care if you go, hey, let's take a shot here. You're only going to do that a few times. And I'm wondering if you will build a stronger team if you gave more playing time to the entire unit. Yeah. And in that way, everyone's ready. Like no one's ever explored that, right?
Right.
No, that's the disruption that I'm talking about. Like give them some playing time. You don't just need to come back with the clean uniform and take the shower pill. Yeah. That we talk about. And you just come in and go, I don't really have to shower because I didn't really go to the game. I just basically showered, got dressed, stood on the sideline, came back in, and then whatever the case may be. So me if I were a coach, I would definitely let my players play.
Interesting thought. Okay. I don't know if you can smell this or not over the air, but I smell some amazing coffee. I hear it brewing.
Oh, it's done.
I recently went to Hawaii, and I got Kona coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, but apparently Herman is. And so he's actually drinking coffee. I'm somewhat boring. He needs something to pep him up for this show, get through the show. So I'm curious. Do you have a cup?
I'm gonna boil that out a little bit for us. So
I'm curious. Can you actually?
I'm gonna go get it.
I want you to.
I'm gonna go do it. But but I have to say this, man. The packaging is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. This isn't like a tourist piece. You didn't get this off like the street vendor or anything like that.
It's a little touristy.
Come on, man. I'm just saying, Scott, man. I got to know that you got this from an approved farm, man, and I'm not going to sit here and all of a sudden fall out on the floor.
That's exactly where I got it from.
But this is 100% Kona coffee.
Yeah, I had to hike about 12 miles through the jungle to get to their facility. And,
beautiful packaging, by the way, and it's really good to clear window.
I went the length, so
let's can I step out?
So let's take a break, and Herman's going to drink coffee when we come back, and we have we're going to talk about the impact that your former coaches have on the rest of your life. Are they really an influence, or is it just kind of a hyperbole? We'll talk about that. So much more when the Down and Dirty returns.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty, Scott Mitchell with my co-host, Herman Moore. Mitchell to Moore was a great combination in the NFL and with the Detroit Lions. It's still a great combination. It's eternal. It will be a combination that will never die. Of course, Herman will live forever because he drinks coffee. And I did. I was in Hawaii. I was kind enough, and he literally is pouring coffee as we speak. And so this is the moment of truth. This coffee may be horrible. We have no idea, or it may be the best freaking cup of Joe he's ever had. We're gonna find. Do you just take it straight? No,
That's it,
no
man.
cream, no sugar, no anything.
Hey, listen, man. If you're around a serious coffee drinker and you see someone loading it up with sugar and cream,
They're not serious.
They're fake.
They're rookies.
Yeah, it's not even rookies. Like they're not really coffee drinkers. So this is your moment of truth.
Here we go.
Hawaii, don't let me down.
Yeah, Kona coffee. Be honest.
I'm gonna be honest. So if you understand how coffee, like it's not bitter. It's very smooth. It doesn't leave that taste on your tongue right there. Like if I was standing in front of you, you could smell the coffee, but you would be like, oh man, coffee breath. Like that's smooth.
That's good.
That's a good, and it's a medium roast too. So the other thing that people understand, like you can roast coffee to different levels.
Right. Yes,
so you can have the espresso, you can have just a dark roast, you can have the French, you can have a light, you can have medium, and all these different types of. So it's all in the roast too.
And you're typically a dark roast, right?
I'm a medium.
You're a medium. Okay.
But if it's a dark roast, I already know how I can level it off so that it's not too strong. Like
so
I don't
like it.
I like it. Like I like if it's an espresso, yeah, it's got to have some punch to it. It's got to be really caffeinated and just really kick you in the head. But this is good.
Good news, because now Herman will be awake for the rest of the show and he'll be peppy. So that is a good thing. Hey, by the way, this might be interesting to you. 83 of the top 100 shows on television, on all mediums, streaming, pay-per-view, traditional, whatever, 83 of the top 100 shows are NFL football games. That's how popular the NFL is. Now, the Department of Justice is actually looking into antitrust violations, right? If the NFL is being too greedy and because they have an exemption, basically meaning that they can negotiate the rights for their games to collectively, like, and that's different because we live in a free market society, and so they're allowed to do this. And so the question is, have they gone too far with this? And because so many, I'm a huge Utah Jazz fan. Utah Mammoth are in the playoffs this year, by the way, playing the Las Vegas Golden Knights, which is an awesome regional, because Salt Lake, Las Vegas have a lot of they don't. I don't want to say they have things in common, because you have Sin City and you have Saint City, and they're certainly opposite. But there's a lot of people in Utah go to Las Vegas and they just say, "Hey, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas," and they get away with it. There's all kinds of crazy things. Students will go and they'll get married for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
If they're BYU students,
Mm-hmm.
and then they get it annulled after the weekend, and so they stay within the rule. I mean, there's crazy stuff that goes. And I live close to Las Vegas. In fact, I flew to Michigan from Las Vegas. But anyways, Mammoth, the Golden Knights playing hockey, and getting back to the NFL and the antitrust really quick. Do you think there's any smoke where there's or there's fire where there's smoke in this? And is the NFL have they gone a bridge too far?
There's always smoke when there's money.
All
right, we already know that. You ask anyone when it comes to that, it is what drives it, right? That's why they do what they do. They don't say, "Hey, we're doing this because they are nonprofits and it's not the most charitable organization," because they keep raising prices and they keep doing things to make it to where they're creating these multi-billion-dollar deals. But I think that when you talk about the antitrust suit or the problem that they're looking at potentially facing, is because when you get into everyone's streaming, so it's subscription-based programs, and they're being hidden behind a paid wall. When you put it behind a paid wall, you want to share in that revenue. Well, some people, the way they've gotten away from it is like it used to be. It's more of the pay-per-view, or you had to sign up for the package. Well, to try and, I think, not skirt or dodge these. It's now saying, okay, we're going to do a deal with the companies that are the streaming platforms, and we'll put our games there. We'll do the deal with that company so that the people who are already subscribed to their services will then automatically get it through that subscription. But they're getting a cut of that subscription. So they're still getting that money across the collective, which spreads it across all the people on that platform versus just a select few that are looking just for that product, that specific product. So they're looking at ways to work around it. And, I call that smart business. I call that, if the laws are written a certain way, you work within those rules and then you build your business around that. However, it at some point it becomes, it's fragmented now, right? You can only get this one if you're in that market, and you got to buy this subscription. Now you got to have 4 different subscription packages to get what you used to get with one subscription, right? Which it doesn't necessarily mean that you're saving money. You're actually probably spending more money, but it seems like you're spending less because you already have these paid services, right?
The thing that I think is a challenge, because you say, oh, you're trying to just milk every possible media outlet. But the reality is the people who pay for the NFL are advertisers, and advertisers are just going to go where the eyeballs are and where people are. And people, I'm a streamer. Like, I don't have terrestrial television. I don't have cable. I don't have a satellite. I don't have anything. I have YouTube TV. And that's what I watch. And then I have, like I said, with the Utah Jazz and the Mammoth, they have a subscription based viewership. And I didn't do the Jazz this year because I knew they were going to suck and I just couldn't watch it. But the Mammoth, different story. And so I'm willing to make that. So it's kind of hard to argue that they're violating laws. They're just kind of feels like they're moving towards where everyone is, which, as you said, is smart business. Okay, Dave McGinnis, you remember him at all? He used to be the head coach of the Phoenix, Arizona Cardinals. He does. He doesn't remember. Drink more.
That's a good cone of coffee.
Just drink more coffee. You'll be fine. Yeah, that's a signal. When I don't know the answer, I'm just going to drink.
But I always say this is something that I think we can all agree with. One, I love argumentation and debating. Okay. That was one of my cool pieces I love from the University of Virginia. I may not know the person's name, but the subject that you're going to talk about, I know I can be relevant in the conversation. Yeah.
I'm not worried about that. Yeah.
So there you go.
That's why you're here.
I mean, but I'm here. I'm here to get these free gifts that QB1 brings me from all his travels. So, yeah. So go ahead.
I also brought back sickness. So I came back from Hawaii sick. Okay. So, anyways, Dave McGinnis, he was a short-term head coach for the Arizona Cardinals and an assistant in the NFL for some years. He recently passed away. May rest in peace. But it stirred up this thought in my brain about coaches. And I've had my college coach was Jim Fossil, who ended up coaching for the Giants in the Super Bowl. He was long-time NFL assistant and head coach. He passed away a few years ago. Of course, Coach Shula passed away. So I've had coaches that are both living and who have passed away. And the question I have for you is, how much impact have your former coaches had on your life? Like, because everyone says, there was this person that, is always my football coach or someone who made all the difference in my life. And they really made me the person I am today. And they taught me so many things. How much of an impact is that? Is that a real thing?
It's real.
Okay.
It's real because.
So what is the impact? How did they impact your life? And who?
So I can go back, man. Just, when I started playing football when I was 6 years old, and many of us as athletes, I don't know how old you were when you first started playing. Yeah. Right. So you start at this early age. These people are trying to teach you the basic fundamentals. You're working with different coaches, the different, volunteers, the parents, whatever they may be. And the skill level of those individuals who are influential, that are your coaches, start to take a bigger role within your development. That development, it's in sports, but they're teaching you things that we are actually developing as life skills, even though we're only applying them to the athletic side of our journey. But then if you fast forward, you start to look at, as we walk away from the game, you start to look at those people a little bit differently. Now there's conflict that happens. There's disagreement. There's lack of understanding because you're developing, you're growing, and you're dealing with people who should be more mature, more wiser, should be putting you on the right path. They should be, good communicators, which we know they're not all the time. Right. And when I look at it, my junior high school coach, then all of a sudden I go into my JV coaches with Coach Hodges, who also happened to later become my high jump and track and field coach at my high school. Harry Johnson, who was my basketball coach. Ed Martin was probably my biggest influence from the high school level because he was my football coach who showed me that just because you're so talented and you have all these skills, you're developing, you're athletic, but your attitude isn't right. And he would make me, I was a backup all the way through my senior year, right? And it wasn't until I changed that part and bring the complete piece, the mental, the attitude, the athleticism to the table to show me that you can't even step out here and be successful unless you're going to bring the whole person. So that's an example. Then you go to college, Coach Welsh. I've said this on some of my social channels about the influence where he elevated and he talked about team first. And he instilled in me just, you're not bigger than the one. And he showed me. Some people say it, but they're not willing to lose a game to prove the point. But I had coaches who were willing to say, I will not play the best players. I will not put you in a situation. I'd rather take the person who is complete, whole, and about what we're doing as a collective than to play you because you're the individual. And we know that doesn't exist in the professional sports world, right? We know there's hierarchy and there's people that I'll get rid of everybody and leave this one player or these two players. Like, no. And that's allowed me to become a better person in life in terms of how I govern myself and how I carry myself and understanding the world isn't fair. So I don't go out here and cut up and tear up and all of a sudden, go order food with no clothes on in the middle of the night. It's like, and that's a funny story here in Detroit with one of the coaches. It's okay.
I was thinking to myself last night because it's like, how did they know?
Oh yeah, no, Scott, you better man. Don't be driving through, man. Trying to get stuff late at night. But it's those are really important people, and they don't understand the position they sit in terms of the influence and impact long term beyond the sports, but also at that moment in time playing the sports.
So it wasn't always necessarily what they taught you. It was even sometimes having to deal with difficult situations and maybe what they didn't teach you and learning how because it's a real challenge today where, that we're so afraid to lose. We're so afraid to have conflict. We're so afraid to fail at something that it really inhibits our ability to solve problems, to adjust to real world things. And, when I coached high school football, it was mind boggling to me how many kids would not play football, not because they didn't want to, but because they were afraid that they might fail at it. And so take all the risk out of it. I'm just not going to do it. And then we'll never know. I'll never know if I could have or couldn't have done it, but I don't want to take the risk. I'm too fragile emotionally to know that I possibly could fail at this. And I'm telling you, it wasn't an isolated case. It wasn't one or two. It was like multiple, and it was mind boggling to me. And you were not going to talk them into. They're just like, I'm not doing it.
Check this out though. So there's this one real cool thing that I did. So there were these kids that were super talented. You could tell the difference, right? Yeah. Athletic ability, where they were in terms of their development, and all these things. And I said, I'm going to show you how we level up the field right here. And I was training these receivers. We were doing the cone drills, and you got some kids, man, they were just dropping their weight. They're doing all the real right things. Then you got these other kids that are just kind of a little awkward and a little whatever. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk it. I had them all walk it first. Everyone walked it the same because everybody could walk, right?
Right.
The levels start to move when you start to increase the intensity. So then you can see how far you're really not as far behind these guys as you think. You now only have to work on speed, dropping your weight, and those things. And then you get a little bit faster each time. I said, but if you will do this consistently slow, that's how you develop the young kids. Do it consistently slow all the time. And then I want you to increase as we go. And as they went, all of a sudden, you couldn't tell as much in just that 2-hour camp. You started to see that they closed the gap.
Interesting comment because with young golfers, they do something similar, and they have them at the shortest possible tee, the distance from the hole, and they go, you will stay at those tees until you can break par, and then once you break par, you move back one tee level. So they weren't even at the women's tees; they were at the junior tees. They were at but it was that similar type of thing where developing that confidence and that competency through really kind of learning how to have success. Okay, the whole reason I ask you this question is for one coach. All right, I want to know. I want to know the impact that Wayne Fonts had on your life.
Oh, okay, that coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I get a little
I'm not
nervous,
gonna
man.
ask you. No.
I thought you was going to ask me about a couple other coaches.
No. And I had a very interesting relationship with Wayne. I really did. And I don't know that I ever really totally knew where I stood with him, which was frustrating. I think I knew I don't think he really liked me. I don't think he really wanted me. I don't. I think he tolerated.
You ever thought about calling Wayne?
I've tried.
Uh-huh.
If you have his number, I
don't necessarily have his number. We should
just
get him
on the show.
No, yeah, I'm saying that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna get.
I've had coaches that I've had conflict with. I mean, I called Bobby Ross on the phone. We had a wonderful conversation.
You need to get him on the show so he and I can clear the hair a little bit.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is like Jerry.
Here's what we do. Here's what we do. I will suggest we do these things. We get Wayne on for one segment, and you can go through your whole thing with Wayne, and then you get Bobby on.
Yeah,
Coach Ross. I won't disrespect. We'll get Coach Ross on.
Yeah, and
then we'll go from there. Because I really want to really put that to bed. And the thing is, he was part of the reason I got into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. He's on the committee. Had an opportunity to talk to him, and
Coach Ross.
Coach Ross, right? Yeah. And he said some really kind things, but that's one place, but there's still this unresolved piece that's there. And I don't hold grudges. It doesn't bother me one day and all that, but I just want to make sure he understands. No, man, come on.
I do.
No, I just like to make sure that we understand that now I'm at this different state. I'm not a 20-some-year-old person.
Yeah.
Let's have this conversation now. Because I think my mentality and my mindset has changed to where I think there are some things I need to make sure he understands. And even in an apologetic standpoint that perhaps I didn't know because I was young. But then I do definitely believe that there are some other things I would like to see where he stands, even if he stands on the same business, right, that he was on. But it's important, I think, that we have resolution at times. It's not necessary. It's not the be all end all. But some of us like to have that just so we can just say, you know what, I at least said what I need to say.
Yeah. No,
at this state, versus at the younger state, you're just trying to find your way in the world.
We definitely need to do that, and it does help clear the. I had Tom Moore on the show. Great conversation with Coach Moore, and he coached 49 years in the NFL, and he was dumbfounded that I wanted to talk to him, and I'm like, it was just a great conversation, and so I loved it. I had some great coaches that had a huge impact on my life, and I don't know that I fully appreciated what all that impact was, because you brought up the point about dealing with challenges, and these coaches are about, look, we got to win these football games, and that's kind of the bottom line with a lot of it, but there's a process of winning. There's a process of striving for excellence in how you practice and how you carry yourself. And you certainly got those types of traits instilled in you. Or I always like to think that we are who we are, and being in sports and just being in the different situations we are in life, it draws out the person that you are more, and develops and defines what your character is. And because I think football is just a tremendous sport to learn about yourself and who you are and what you're made of. And so, if a coach did that intentionally or not, they did it, and it happened, and it was a byproduct.
They do it intentionally.
Yeah. All right. We're going to call Coach Bobby Ross and Wayne Fonts on the phone here. When we take a break, we come back and talk a little bit about the ridiculous nature of tanking. And is there a solution in the NBA when the Down and Dirty returns?
For 75 years, Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. No gimmicks, just durable, well-designed bottles built to last. Join us on our mission to amplify life, not complicate it. Because at Nalgene, what goes into our bottles matters as much as the adventures they fuel. Explore more at nalgene.com. That's NALGENE.com.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Welcome to Kitbag, the ultimate destination for football fans. Whether you're cheering for Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, or any other top club, we've got your team's colors running through our veins. From official replica kits to custom player prints of your favorite stars like Ronaldo, Messi, and Kane, Kitbag is your one-stop shop for all things football. Powered by Fanatics, we deliver to over 180 countries, ensuring you get the gear you need fast. For true football passion, think Kitbag. Visit kitbag.com today. That's KITBAG.com. Kitbag.
Farmhound's approach is a little different than a traditional treat company. We get to work with local farmers who are putting everything they can into regenerative farming. From the soil to the animals to the ecosystem. They care about how animals are raised and how we treat the earth. It's not just product, but it's part of that story. It's connected to just a whole lot more.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty, Scott Mitchell with my co-host here, Herman Moore, Mitchell and Moore on the Down and Dirty. Getting down and dirty. There's no other way. It's the only way. We like to bring it to you in its native form. So Herman is drinking Kona coffee. It's what keeps him awake and alert on the show. I can be dry and boring, and so it helps him to have a little pep. I need more pep. Anyways, tanking in the NBA. I guess it's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's something that just happens. You're foolish not to have it happen, simply because it's staggering, those 1 to 5 picks, how many of them actually turn into all-stars, all NBA players, like elite players. Not all NBA great players, Jokic, of course, he was a second-round pick, but most of them come from that top level. It really changes your team, but it's so painful. As a long-suffering Utah Jazz fan, I've lived through it for the last 2 years. And is it the only solution? Is it a good solution? If you're an NBA organization, does Herman Moore invoke the tanking laws of your program?
I think there's an opportunity for preservation, right? And there's an opportunity to kind of use it as a tool, but I don't think at the risk of hurting the game or making it to where players aren't being, getting the best performance, or it's hurting really the output of that team. Like, you don't want to set precedents. You don't want to set the stage to say this is a tool that's used for anything that's non-competitive, right? And it's one of those deals, man. Like, you don't want to, if you don't have the players and the players are, you're not in a position where you can take it to the level you need to, then there's an opportunity. I think you can use it in a different sense versus just the obvious and the apparent. Right. I think there's a way to use it in utility versus just because everyone know they're doing it, right? We see it as being used, so it's not like it's uncommon. So why not just make it a part of a part of the system that teams are going to exercise this type of way in order to do some other things that helps the team long term.
Well, I just wonder, because I'm just like, yeah, why don't you just embrace it? Just know that bottom third of your league is probably going to shoot to be bad and horrible. I don't know that that's any different in the NFL.
But does the lottery really help though?
Well, that's
Right.
what that's
so
what,
why even do it? You know what I mean?
That's my whole, absolutely 100%. Why would just say you're the worst team and you get the top pick and just do it like they do it in the NFL? I don't know why they get into all these percentages and ping pong balls and all that stuff, because ultimately, if you get good players, you're not always going to be at the bottom.
Right.
It's not going to be the same teams, but there are bad teams in your league, and there are those teams that
bad organizations, bad coaches. But,
yes.
but before you run, you start taking off on me in this. Now, hold on. There is something like, it's not broken. The draft isn't broken. Like the NFL draft process isn't broken.
No.
Like, why not implement that into it and get rid? Like you said, all that other stuff going on makes me go, that seems like you manipulate that a little too much. And you open it up for that kind of stuff to happen. I just wanted to say that because it was a great point on the draft piece, that that is a system that is tried and true, is proven. Here's how it works. You can make your trades. It just works. And it becomes this universal process in sports that is adaptable and it's scalable, and you can use it in different places without disruption, that everyone kind of understands it, and it's pretty cookie cut, right?
Yeah, I mean, where you could kind of manipulate it is, like, let's say you're a really good team and your star player gets injured, and so he's out for the year. You got no shot of winning a championship, so you might as well tank, even if you're a good team, because then your superstar's coming back the next year, and you're going to get another really good player to add to that team.
I'm disagreeing with you, man.
Well, it's because you don't understand the depth of smartness that I bring to this.
Listen, man, like
that's a brilliant idea.
But if your star player goes down, you may uncover a new star player.
It doesn't happen in the NBA. There's not that many good players.
Well, you'll know by the time. Well, if they don't play hard and get towards the play, they don't start playing until they get towards the playoffs anyway.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
all right. Anyway. Hey, we're gonna take a break. We come back. NFL news and notes. So Kermit's drinking coffee. We're taking a break, and we're going to cover some really in-depth NFL stories when the Down and Dirty returns.
Circulon C1 Series Clad with Scratch Defense Non-Stick. The luxury and confidence of premium clad stainless steel meets Scratch Defense Extreme Non-Stick that won't scratch, ever. With an ultra-thick aluminum core for high-performance heating. Maximize cooking, minimize cleaning. Discover the unmatched durability and elegance of clad stainless steel. Scratch-free, worry-free, forever.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com. The grinder mentality that Randy and Brent Habert built into 44 Pro runs deep within our team. Every member shares a passion for the craft, the game, and most importantly, the player. When you step onto the field with a 44 Pro custom glove, you'll feel the difference. It's not just a glove, it's a 44 Pro. Crafted with dedication, made for performance, and built to last. Get your custom glove today at 44pro.com and experience the 44 Pro difference. That's 44pro.com, 44 Pro.
At Mapiful, we believe in celebrating your journey, past, present, and future. Our unique personalized products are designed to boost your confidence, elevate creativity, and honor what matters most. From custom home decor to meaningful gifts, we help you cherish the memories that make you who you are. Visit mapiful.com and start celebrating your story today.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty. Scott Mitchell, my guest host, or co-host, hostess with the mostest, Herman Moore is joining me today. We are live and recorded from Detroit, Michigan. I flew through the night, have had no sleep whatsoever, and I don't drink coffee, so I drink energy drinks, which is probably worse.
A lot worse.
This is really bad. But, I make poor decisions in my eating habits because Herman is he's at war on sugar. So maybe I should join the ranks. I'm gonna sign up for the army and enlist in the war on sugar. He joins me. Of course, the NFL news of notes. We cover the NFL every single day because it is going 365, 24/7. You don't want to miss the NFL. We don't miss it. There's always something to talk about. And you know what? We lived it. We know it. We love it. So we're going to talk about it. All right. There apparently a panel was put together and ruled, according to the NFL Players Association, that there was no collusion about. There was a time when the quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson had this $230 million guaranteed contract, and so they were like, we're not doing that with anybody else. And so there was a debate over whether the league got together and said, we cannot set this precedent. We cannot have this become the standard. And that's illegal to do. That's collusion. And that's not the free market system that we work in. But apparently the league did not do that. Wink, wink. And there was not enough proof is the term that the NFL colluded. Does the NFL collude in contracts and all that fun stuff?
Not unless you can prove it.
Yeah.
Is as plain and simple as that. We can speculate as to what happens in the legalities of sports business and what the leagues are doing, but we know that they are going to get together. They're going to do what is in their best interest to protect the longevity and the sustainability of the NFL. So I'm not going to sit here and say that they're not making sure that they put themselves in the best position to make sure certain things don't occur and mistakes or contracts or different scenarios that have happened in the past don't repeat. So that would be smart business from the same side. But then the players and their agents and all those have to just level up and then understand, how do you get creative? How do you make sure that you keep the field level and you get that guaranteed money, or you get those extended terms they're either mutually beneficial or it leans a little bit more towards your favor, which most of the time it's not going to lean towards your favor. The NFL is going to preserve itself. It's too powerful to just give up that unless you're a star that they really can leverage and get those dollars elsewhere, marketing wise.
Right.
If they can do that, then it's like I said, it's understanding the business. That's the part. We talk sports all day. I've leaned heavily into the sports business side of it, because that will tell you, really make sense of why they make decisions on players, coaches, TV contracts, partnerships. All that, it starts to make sense. Allowing sports betting to come in, all those things, you start to understand all those things at play, other than just what's happening on the field.
So I remember when they started free agency, and they had Gene Upshaw, who was the NFLPA president, came around, and I was with the Miami Dolphins, and our veteran players said, this is going to hurt the veteran player. And he goes, oh no, he goes, the only way that salaries get capped is when they have a salary, is when they have they hit the spending number and they hit the salary cap. And they'll never get to where they're spending $31 million a year on all of your salaries. That'll never happen. And all the players were like, yeah, it's going to happen. And it immediately happened. That first year they spent to the dollar they could. And when I saw that happen, I was like, these guys are no joke. And the reason the owners did it is so that they could control salaries. They knew that they'd had, it in their favor for all these years, and that they knew that they were wrong, right? And they were just trying to put it off and fight it as long as they could. And so today, because they make so much money, it's just ridiculous. Like, they wanted to be able to control and know what they're going to spend on salary. So they got to that cap immediately, and then it put all of these limitations, and it put their ability to negotiate in their back pocket, because it's like, we're only limited. This is all we got, so you take it or leave it. We're going to pay the superstar, but the rest of you, it's going to be a tough challenge. So the NFL, I believe, always knows. I believe they colluded. My personal opinion, but they absolutely 100% are always going to tilt it in their favor. And I think part of the challenge is, unlike baseball, basketball, careers are not that long in the NFL. So you figure out what's going about the time you're out the door, and then they got a bunch of young, inexperienced yahoos, players that don't know the business side of things. By the time you figure it out, you're out the door. And so I don't know that there's ever going to be a day. Now, these players are making ridiculous money right now. I mean, it's hard to argue with, but still the players are still probably leaving a ton of money on the table.
So I'm going to throw something interesting out based on what you just said. And I want you to chew on this for a little bit. I want people to really think about this. And this, this won't be a conspiracy theory or anything like that. But what if, here's what's happening. Players are now playing. It used to be NFL average career was a few years, right?
Yeah.
And due to injury, due to all these other things, maybe not making it or whatever, players are opting to leave early now. They're not finishing 12 years, right? In droves, right? They're leaving after 5, 6 years, 7 years, because they've already made a ton of money.
Yes.
But the NFL isn't complaining. And I'm going, why isn't the NFL complaining? So think about this. I'm thinking they're not complaining because they're saying, listen, we want always prime time in their prime players playing. We don't want the long-term stories anymore. We don't want to overpay players. I'd rather pay these players in their prime and know that we're always spending in the prime. So when you talk about not collusion and doing all that colluding and all that, I think there's conversation that happens to say, listen, let's look at the return on investment. Let's look at, and I'm going to use players and I'm going to say product that's on the field. And it's like, if we are paying, we're going to pay for them when they're at their apex. We're going to pay when they're always on that upside or that peak, because we look at Hall of Famers, we look at people, there's the Hall of Famers who have the peak and then the sustained just production, but it's not peak. They're trying to pay for the peak. The money's being paid in the peak years. And now that's why it's hard. These guys now that are leaving, you go, man, they still have a lot, seems like in the tank, but teams go, yeah, but there's going to be a downslide that's going to happen during that next contract. So we're not even going to deal with it anymore. Just let them go and we'll figure it out. And that's where we're going to see the rotation of teams. And that's why that window gets smaller. It rotates you got 3 years typically with that group,
right,
to kind of get it done. And if you don't, that team's going to recycle.
Yeah. 100%. It's a young man's game. Mm-hmm. But I think there's the exception to the rule. They're not doing it now, but I think they brilliantly did it in New England, where they said, okay, you're going to discard your trash. Like, you're going to get rid of, Randy Moss. You're going to get rid of Chad Johnson. You're going to get rid of Corey Dillon. You're going to get rid of Rodney Harrison. You're going to get rid of these players, Junior Seau, and we're going to take them. So we're going to swim upstream. We're going to fight. We're going to play this game in a different fashion, where we're going to just take them for a couple of years. So they're maybe not what they were, but they're really experienced now. They know the game, and we can get a year or two out of them, very productive and at a really good price. So we got a lot of guys who understand the game of football and still can play at a high level, and we're not going to overpay. Like, if you're Richard Seymour and you're a really great player for us, you're going to have to go somewhere else to get paid. The only guy we're going to pay is our quarterback, because it's Tom Brady, but we're still going to underpay him. And he's going to go, I don't care, because I'm winning Super Bowls, and I'm here. And I 1000% agree with that is the strategy. But I think there have been a few exceptions along the way where people have actually said, okay, we're gonna try to kind of game the system a little bit, or go against the grain and do our own thing. And I think it was brilliant. Did I go deep enough on that?
No, we're good.
Okay, all right. If I don't go far enough,
we had an off. You got to make sure you always leave context with people. We had an off.
I want to.
It's like guessing. Scott jabbed me, and he wants to jab a little bit, and then he just goes on to something else. But we want to sit here and slap box a little bit.
So, an interesting thing is happening in the NFL, and I don't know the full impact of it, but it's this idea of AI, and AI is infiltrated our entire world, and it's doing things better apparently than we can do. But there's still the human factor involved in this. More and more teams are actually implementing AI strategies in their assessment of players. Now, analytics has become a big part of the NFL, and everyone goes, "Hey, it's you should go for it on fourth down all the time." Right? That's a big thing in Detroit, and analytics has been the driver of that. I think a lot of people think, "Oh, this Dan Campbell, it's like one butt cheek and all that stuff." But I believe there's actually science behind a lot of his decisions and what he did. People might argue with him that the Lions might have gone to the Super Bowl had he not used analytics. Regardless, AI is here. It's here to stay. How big of an impact is it going to have on the NFL? Maybe right now and moving forward in the future.
It's coming in a big way in terms of the utilization of it and how it evaluates, analyzes, provides efficiency, and also helps in the decision-making process. And also, I think it'll be a way of gate checking. I don't think it's just, and then understand this, it's not just going to be among evaluating players. It's going to be a part of the cap. It's going to be able to run quicker scenarios than your accountants or your main financial CFOs and all those can run. It's going to be able to create scenarios that you can plug in players and salaries and and all these other things that gives you kind of a initial state of go, no go, or is this even worth traversing down this path? However, what it will not be able to still do is what we see and what we know, what we engage and interact with on a personal basis. And the concern becomes, how does that lead to laziness? And does that lead to people just saying, this is a way for me to skirt my job? And then also me to shift blame and say, well, this is what the numbers say.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't keep people accountable for certain decisions that are made. And I think it's going to start to lead into lack of accountability because people are going to be able to pass it off because they're trying to make that more of the decision making. And this is my excuse. Right. And I think you have to be accountable for it. If you're going to use it, then you're going to have to own it in that context as well. We do a lot with AI in business. They're going to use it in business. The NFL is using it right now. It's being done in video production. It's being done in playbook creation, play deciding, and all those things. So it's not going anywhere.
See, one of the things I'm really fascinated with where it goes is this whole thing of, as you mentioned, play calling. Mm-hmm. Like you go, give me the first 15 plays of the game. Like what are the best first 15 plays of this game? And I'm sure you put input, all of the, the different here's the tendencies of the defense, here's the situation. And I'm always fascinated by what's the best first call in a drive. If you're, and that call changes, like we're backed up, we're on the 10, we start on the 20, we start on the 45, wherever it might be, we and kind of go through those scenarios. And I'd be fascinated to see what AI actually comes up with. But here's the thing that I always in the back of my mind. So Doug Peterson, who was the head coach of the Eagles, Doug and I were teammates together, and great guy. And so I was interviewing Doug, and I said, "Tell me," I go, "I could see in your mind when the Philly special was brought up, and you heard that, and you go, that's the play."
Right.
Run it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Oh, it's worse than that." He goes, we had practiced this play and it was garbage. Like nobody had any confidence in this play. He said, because I was just talking to Nick Foles, the whole team, like the coaches couldn't hear me in the headset, and he's going on the field with the play and they're all like, "What's the play?" And Doug goes, "I said, I called Philly special." And he goes, "I could hear crickets." Like everyone was just like, "Oh, this is going to be horrible." Like no one believed the play would work except for him. And he heard it and his gut told him that's the play. And they won the Super Bowl on that play. So can AI get in your gut and go, and that's the part. And I hope it doesn't take that away. But I'm sitting here going, man, I would, because you know, coaches are like, we work till 11 o'clock every night, and now it's like you go type in AI, and it's like by 12:30, you know, in the afternoon before you've had lunch, we got the game plan for the week. You know,
Right.
I mean, I really, if it can do that, and get result, like I don't know that I don't know how I feel about this, other than I would love to see what AI comes up with, and maybe it is some innovation. It is some, oh wow, that is the absolute best way to call a game or call this situation or whatever. But it's here, and it's not going away.
So I'm in AI a lot, and anyone who knows this, you have to have it as part of your business, your daily life, some of the things you're doing. I will say this, just to your point, you can go in and say, give me my first 15 or dial up these things, these tendencies. Well, that levels up the field. Everyone knows your tendencies. Everyone has access to the same footage. And so they can get the same thing. It's all in what we call the prompting and all this other stuff that you can do. But as you create these scenarios, the next one, use of it, I like I said, I can see the use of it saying, this is what the tendencies are and people are expecting us to do. Now create me the scenario that creates disruption, that throws them off, and then give me this. But the coaches have to embrace that. We've seen the coaches. So now does that change the type of coaches that you hire? Now you got to have coaches who are willing to accept and adopt and implement AI as part of the philosophy and let go of ego. And again, disruption. So when those disruptions start to happen, you start to see a new evolution of coaches. And then all of a sudden the old heads are going to be the ones going, that's not the way to do it. And that you should never do it that way. And that's what I'm saying. I think you're going to start to see very pedestrian coaches. And then you're going to start seeing the coaches that you wouldn't expect to be a coach because they're more into this. And then you're having other people implement the findings of that data analyst and that AI expert that is now invested in understanding how to uncover loopholes and beat teams.
See, I wonder if, because you go, well, here's the play. We still got to execute it, right? You still got to run it. You still have to do it. But will AI have the capability of actually saying, here is the best technique to implement, or, you know, so you should be doing this, you should be training your player, or this player should be, you know, here's the steps, here's the moves, here's everything, to get the optimum production out of the player. And that to me is even, you know, when you talk about, you know, disruption, you talk about game changing, where, you know, because I don't know that all the coaches know the best technique or the best way to run a route, or to have a blocking scheme, or how a quarterback sets their feet in the right way, in the right angle. And so can AI coach?
No, it can't. And you just can't remove and replace the physical side of it, the human side of it, as easily as people think. It's going to be a trial and error, and what they're going to find is going to fail. And I'm telling you, it's just, there's some things you just cannot remove the human side of it, because you're going from machine learning back to human.
Yeah. It's going to be fascinating. Really is. And I think we're just on the cusp of it. All right. We're going to take another break. Herman has drunk so much coffee today, Kona coffee from Hawaii, that he got from his favorite quarterback of all time. He will drink coffee, go to the bathroom, and we'll finish up this show without him. We'll miss him, but he'll be back more. So Down and Dirty returns in just a minute to finish up this wonderful, lovely show.
You probably get unwanted emails almost every single day.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Get paid faster with Bill, the easiest way to send, receive, and manage your payments. No more delays, no more hassle. Whether you're a freelancer or a business, Bill makes payments seamless and secure, simple, fast, and reliable. Sign up today at Bill.com.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
Have you ever wondered why so many pet parents are choosing to have virtual vet appointments? Online veterinary care is making it easier than ever to get expert advice for your pet. Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns and expand access to pet care. Book your first appointment today.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty. Scott Mitchell. I'm solo now. Herman Moore, again, drank too much coffee, has to go to the bathroom. And you know, when you drink too much coffee, that bathroom break could be a while. So we're gonna cut him some slack, let him do his thing. All right. The show goes on though, and I wanted to go back to the Masters. I know it's a day late and a dollar short, but that's kind of the mantra of the show. We're a day late, dollar short, but we do like to talk about the Masters. And I absolutely loved watching it. I think there's nothing better than the back nine on Sunday at the Masters. It did not disappoint. I think it's so riveting to see these players and the ups and downs, the challenge, because they all want to win this event more than anything. And so you're just getting the best effort that they possibly can have. Those greens are so tough. The course is so undulating. It really requires a master at their craft and playing at a high level. I mean, that's really who's gonna win the event. But the one thing I think that was so riveting to me is players either win this or they lose it. And they have to take shots. They have to they got to swing for the fences. They got to go for it. Yeah, you have to go for it, because if you're chasing on Sunday and the tournament was close, and even Rory said, I had to watch the scoreboard because I did not have the cushion. I did not know what was going on. I needed to know what was going on around me to know when and where to push things. And of course, the tournament to me was the 12th hole. Like, that was the tournament. And it was the closest shot anyone had hit all tournament, or at least on Sunday. And it's a hole that's notoriously had its victims. It's one of these, you hit the ball in the middle of the green, you two putt for par, and you move on. And Rory said, I got something up my sleeve. And he hit it just to the right of center. So he caught the ridge. It had a little side spin to it, which actually, put it closer to the hole. But and he looked at his caddy with so much confidence and so much, belief, and just said, I just pulled it off. And almost in a sense go, I just won this golf tournament, because nobody else hit that shot and that just said, oh, yeah. Scheffler only had 2 birdies on the back nine. He didn't make the charge that he'd made the day before. But my goodness, being 12 shots out after 2 rounds and then coming back and within 1 shot of winning just tells you, you look at the best players in the world and you got 1 and 2 finish 1 and 2 in the Masters. It just tells you that it's about skill. It's about ability, but it's also about the ability and skill to hit shots in some of the biggest pressure moments in the world. But the birdie on 12 to me was absolutely the shot of the tournament, and it was so significant. And there's a lot of people that Rory kind of rubs wrong or whatever. I just really appreciate the greatness that was displayed. Here was a guy that looks like he's going to run away with the event. he gets in his way. He finds a way to make it interesting and to make it challenging, but he also gets out of his way. And in the clutch going down the stretch, he didn't have the meltdown. He didn't have the breakdown. He came through in an unbelievable fashion. Of course, he looked like he was going to make it super interesting on 18, and ends up with a bogey, and just it's a one-shot win, but it's a win, and doing everything you possibly can do to win the event is just such a fun thing to watch happen. And it's really why, to me, I just love the Masters so much. Everyone says this event does not happen. The Masters does not start until the back nine on Sunday. And that's what happened. And you just saw all these guys trying so hard. And you could see the mental fatigue that eventually gets to you. And that's part of what makes the Masters so beautiful. And the mental fatigue is, okay, one, we're walking a really long course. It's probably the most undulating course that we walk all year, but every shot requires our attention. Like there aren't any like gimme shots. The drive has to be in the right place and the right distance if you're going to have any chance of making a score or not blowing up your score. And then it's not, well, hit it on the green. You got to hit it in the right spot at the green. So it's very, very small windows, very small places, to hit your shot. And then you got to putt it, on glass. And so the whole, everything, it's your drive, it's your approach, it's the putt, it's the up and down, and it's the significance of the elevation change, chipping onto these greens is, just, and the guys who won it, the guys who were in at the end were just marvelous at their up and down. Now, Scheffler was horrible on the par fives. Masters champions are always guys that deal with the par fives. They just get it done. And so this is truly a magnificent test of the greatness of these players. And it's not the greatness of, it's the mental greatness. It's the fortitude greatness. It's also I want to win this tournament so freaking bad. And you hear and you watch some of the old footage of players, and they talk about what does this mean to them. And it's almost indescribable. It's almost, Bubba Watson said, I never got this far in my dream. Like I never contemplating the fact that I could do this. And when they do finally win, it's such a remarkable thing. But the other thing that's truly insane is how few players have actually repeated. And so there've only been 4 now all time. And it was Faldo, it was Nicholas, it was Woods, and now it's Rory. There've been guys that have won 2, 3 Masters, but never back to back. So it's extremely hard to win back to back. And I wonder, can you three-peat, right? It feels like Rory in his head right now is figuring out, how can I go about doing something that nobody's done? Nobody's three-peated. So that's a challenge. Part of, I think, is why it's a little surprising to me is the players who, win it, get to come back. And there comes a point where, because you've been to so many Masters, because you go back every single year, it's part of why you see a Fred Couples who's in it, and shoots some really good rounds, because they're just familiar with the golf course. They know the golf course. They understand the golf course, and therefore they still can be competitive. Whereas you go to a new course for the Open Championship, or you go to a U.S. Open, and always at different courses. Sometimes they go back, but they don't go back every year. It might be 10 years or so before they go back to a U.S. Open, or longer, or maybe a little bit sooner sometimes. And so you just don't have that real in-depth familiarity. Like, Augusta, for some of these guys, like playing their home course. Now, Rory had the privilege, because he's won, to go and play at Augusta multiple times in the offseason. And he goes, that was more valuable clearly to him than actually going and playing other events. So membership has its privileges, winning has its privileges. And I'm sure everyone's just holding with bated breath right now. What the heck are we going to do with the Champions Dinner? Are we going to have another Rory Champions Dinner, or what's in store for us? So we'll find out what that is in the future. But man, I just love the Masters. And another thing that I love is I love to hear the description of people who have gone to the Masters, been to the Masters for the first time, and truly understand the significance of how great that place is, how great the tradition is, how it's so revered, so respected, so special. And it's just one of those, thank goodness for that in the world that we live in, with so much change and so many things are different. And the Masters has never blinked. It's never blushed. It's never anything. It's just said, this is who we are, and this is what we've been forever, and we're not changing. We are not going to be anything different moving forward. There was an interesting development on Sunday with Sergio, who's a past champion. Really happy for him when he won. Broke his golf club, had some, got a conduct, I guess it's a demerit. I don't know all of what goes into conduct detrimental for a golfer. And anyways, he did it. He got it. And some people called for a lifetime ban of Sergio from the Masters. Everyone is invited as a patron, as a participant, and it's a special privilege to get that invitation. It's a special privilege to hold your seat at the table. It's not something that everyone has access to, and should be held in great reverence, respect, and to be revered significantly. And so, I'm not sure, lifetime ban on this. I still think emotion and passion are a good part of, Sergio. He's a Spaniard. They're always very emotional, wear their emotions on their sleeve, kind of thing. But it is the Masters, and to control that anger is certainly a part of the deal. All right, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, I kind of saw an article about Coach Prime. Coach Prime's been in Colorado now for a bit of time, and has not had really any significant success, other than he's created much more interest and popularity in the Colorado Buffalo program, but it hasn't equated into championships. Do former players, now I know there are players who are successful, but do really successful players, can they make great coaches? We'll talk about that and so much more when the Down and Dirty returns. Don't touch that dial.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty. Scott Mitchell. So glad you could join us. We've got our final segment of the show. I'm kind of upset right now. I'm upset with Martin. I'm upset with Zach, Herman. Y'all didn't tell me I had President Donald Trump hair today. I got the, and I don't need the, anyways, I'm looking a little bit like the president, but there's no orangeness, at least to my hair anyways. It doesn't look too bad. All right. So welcome back to the show. It's a lot of fun today. We're going to bring Martin in for this last segment because I love Martin. He's wonderful. And he never ceases to shock, amaze, and surprise me. So I need shock, amazement, surprise today. Therefore, Martin is involved. He's got his Zion's National Park. Of course, it's one of the big five in the state of Utah. And it's an absolutely stunning and beautiful place. So we live in a wonderful part of the world. Come see us. But make sure you leave. So you can come and visit, but go when you're done. All right. The WNBA draft has concluded. 6 players from UCLA, of course, first-time national champion UCLA, are drafted. Is that a shock to you, Martin? Is that a surprise? What does that mean for the WNBA?
I think it means for the WNBA is just that they are tapping into a pool of projected, talented players from UCLA. Obviously, they won the national championship. They were clearly the better team and the best team in the country. So you're going to, as NBA scouts, WNBA scouts, you're going to look at that talent, you're going to scout it, and you're going to wonder if that's the right type of player to draft. You mentioned 6 went, and 5 went in the first round last night, and the first player to come off the board was Lauren Betts, and then Gabrielle Yaquez, who went to my team, the Chicago Sky. She'll be replacing Angel Reese as the tall forward on the team, so we'll see what her rim shot and her shooting is like. This is just the only way I can describe it, because I'm trying to use some references to help it. It's like 01 with Miami. What was that? 12 players went in the first round in that NFL draft with
right
after the 2000, was that the 2002 or 2003 draft, whichever one. But the point is, they had about 12 players go in the first round. It's an amazing step forward, especially for one program, UCLA. Obviously, UConn is the dominant team where a lot of talent comes out of the WNBA. But congrats to UCLA.
That was kind of my question. Like, how in today's world did all these players get by UConn, South Carolina, some of these programs that have kind of been a hotbed or at least a conglomerate of talent? Is NIL and some of that seeping into women's basketball, and is that how UCLA was to do or did this, or what's the attraction to UCLA? Because it's never happened there. And these other places have been a juggernaut. So what's going on at UCLA?
I don't know.
Giving money to the women's basketball program now?
You know what? I hope they are. I'm not specific on everything that's going on at UCLA, but that's kind of what happens with when you have a surge of talent in women's high school basketball, and you only got 2 level top schools that you want to go to, either South Carolina or UConn. When they're all full on their roster spots, you got to go somewhere else. And UCLA has put themselves in a position to be attractive, and for especially talented young women players out of high school or in college, the transfer portal has helped as well. I think that's a good thing. I think honestly, the fact is that talent's being spread around in the ranks and through other schools is a good thing, because at the end of the day, players want to get playing time. That's the commodity right now. That's more valued than just the money. The money is a nice thing to have, but playing time and how level of your coaching experience, not just having experienced college coaches anymore, but experienced, former NBA coaches or former WNBA coaches are in college ranks now these days as well. So UCLA has just done a phenomenal recruiting job. I mean, you live in LA, here in sunny California,
Hey, Mark, first letter I got ever when I was being recruited in high school was from UCLA. And the first sentence was, Southern California has an average year-round temperature of 78 degrees, and that's all they had to say to me, and I'm like, I'm in. But it was UCLA is one of those great programs, great brands who's certainly underperformed for a long time. So the women's game. And it's a touchy subject. It's a challenging thing. The women feel like they should be paid like the men should be paid, and a lot of debate. But the women's game is different. It's a different game. The NBA is a game that's different today than it was when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came on the scene, and certainly Bird and Magic elevated the NBA, probably saved the NBA, and not necessarily saved it, but made it a household product, something that was watchable, something that wasn't rebroadcast. It brought a tremendous amount of growth and stability to the league. And then along comes Michael Jordan, and they just go, we've never seen anyone like Michael Jordan. And then you start seeing players who are like Michael Jordan, like super athletic and do a lot of different things. They're not Bird, they're not Magic, they're not the old player, and it really lifted the whole dynamic of the NBA. And you've seen some of these new generations of players. You see 7-footers like Kevin Durant, who handle the ball like a point guard and shoot it, like they're Pistol Pete Maravich. And so the game evolved, and it evolved in a good way. The women's game has been challenged because of the style of play, and it doesn't necessarily appeal to a wide audience. Now, Caitlin Clark comes along, and she's a little bit like, you might say, the Michael Jordan change in the WNBA, and I think it brings a broader appeal to watch the game than in the past. And you wonder, at least I do, is the game going to and does it evolve enough to bring in a wider audience for people to watch? And is a Caitlin Clark type of player maybe the tip of the iceberg, the ushering in of a new type of player, a type of style that's different, that certainly is much more interesting, at least for me, and I think a lot of other people, to actually watch. I'm really cheering for the WNBA, and I really hope that it works, but it's got to have a product that you go, man, give me a compelling reason to watch this and to see this. Otherwise, all trying to be fair and whatever, it doesn't matter. You got to have a great product and something compelling, or you're not you're not going to be in business. So what do the tea leaves tell you about kind of the direction of the WNBA, and is the style of play, is the player changing, evolving to where it has a much broader appeal to it?
Well, I think, I think the evolution of the game itself has now shifted to, a majority of the game is shooting. So, obviously we see a higher volume of 3-point shots, a higher volume of smarter shots and passing. So, the NBA used to be a bruising, you throw it into your forwards, you play out of that action. And then, the 3-point shots and all that type of stuff was, a safe way, a get out towards the end of the play if it didn't break inside. So, the shooting, I think, has become, more appealing because it's just, mostly WNBA players are shooters. They're not, driving, forcing, tall, physical forwards, like a Charles Barkley or a Hakeem Olajuwon or a Shaq. All right, there's a different way that they play. However, I think Shaq said this once on his podcast, and I agree with him. Lower the rims. I mean, these talented players can dunk. I've seen high school, women basketball players attempt to dunk a basketball. All right, they can dunk a basketball. lower it a foot or a foot and a half and let them dunk. Like, if you want to see some attraction, then do that. Then we can maybe see a WNBA slam dunk contest. Let's see what these guys can do during their All-Star break. We've seen that they can play, and have a compelling 3-point contest and an All-Star competition game. I've seen them. I watched them. They're competitive. I like them. Lower the rims, and I think the shooting is starting to become something that people see as what it is in the game. Also, last thing before I hand it back to you is I just think the game has taken its time. The NBA took 35 years before it made a legitimate profit, and that was during the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird era. All right, it took all the way from about the early 1950s until the 80s for the NBA to do something profitable. And then obviously Michael Jordan made it even more profitable. The WNBA is right there. They're about to give women players $1 million contracts, which would be the first time in the WNBA's history that's happened. So, and that's almost 30 years that it's taken from, small chump change to attract the top, college players to come play the WNBA. Obviously, it's not the, most profitable, but it's starting to get there. And I think it just takes time. Caitlin Clark is helping it out. More players are on the way that are very talented that will show off their skills. And it just takes time. I believe it will eventually be there one day, but today's not that day. But however, I think the WNBA game itself is in a very comfortable position. It's just not as popular as the NBA, but the NBA's popularity is starting to falter as well. So, maybe the WNBA can catch up and jump the NBA one day. Who knows?
That's a giant leap for mankind right there, and it's not a small step either. So you bring up a point that's kind of interesting, and you talk about the evolution of the game, and it's a shooting game. The best players in the NBA right now are European players, and part of why they're the better players is because they play sound fundamental basketball, and they, that's how they're taught the game. So you see a Jokic who's a great passer. You see him, boxing out and rebound and doing all those fundamental things. And then you see this team, more of a team basketball that's winning championships in the NBA, which is different than you got to have that, and you have to have that elite superstar, but you're seeing that elite superstar buying into a team or a more team concept. And that's a lot of the women's game, right? It's fundamental basketball. It's appreciating. And one of the really enjoyable things I've done in my life is actually coached sophomore girls basketball. Really fun, but it's a different game, and so maybe the evolution is going back to more team basketball, and that might be a little bit more of what the WNBA is. So maybe there is a spot for it, but the lowering the rims, I think, would certainly bring some intrigue. And you could argue the women's basketball is actually smaller. It's not the same size. Women's hands typically aren't the same size as men's. So, we're built different. And because of that dynamic, nature in which we're designed and built as males and females, catering to what is more of a female body. Yeah, that I would love that. I would totally love that. And maybe it's still at a height that's like 9.5 feet, so it's, but what would 9.5 feet do to the women's game and the ability to dunk? And do you think we'd all tune into a slam dunk contest for females if the rim was lowered? So I love those ideas. I think they're absolutely spot on. And so I don't know. I saw this draft and I saw all these players and I'm just like, it's exciting, but it isn't, because the game, the women's game, outside of, I just like the way Caitlin Clark plays. I really do. And I like how she passes too. And not only just shoots. So we'll see where it ends up, but who knows? We don't know. All right. We're going to take the long break. Thank you, Martin, for your participation today. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks, Herman. Thank you, Zach. Really appreciate all of you sports fans for checking out our show. So hope you have a wonderful day. I'm going to have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all here tomorrow. So this has been the Down and Dirty. I'm Scott Mitchell. Until then, we will see you then.